Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to again another video. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to create this. I'm going to show you guys my tips and tricks, the way I do my brows, how I normally do my brows. It's taken me quite a while to, I wouldn't say perfect my brows, but get to the point where I'm at today. I wasn't always great. Everyone starts somewhere. Takes a lot of practice, but you guys have requested me to do a brow tutorial, so here I am. So yeah, if you guys want to learn how to go from this to this, then please keep on watching. Okay guys, so for today's video I'm going to be using 5 tools and 4 makeup products in total. Sometimes it varies, not always you're going to have to use all 5 tools and all 4 products. I'm going to be using 3 makeup brushes, some tweezers, and some little scissors to trim my brows with. As far as products, I'm going to be using the Anastasia Brow Definer, which already, if I can get this open, which comes with the pencil part, and it also comes with a spoolie. And this is in the shade dark brown. I will also be using the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer in the shade medium. You can use any concealer, it doesn't have to be the Tarte Shape Tape, any concealer will work. But today I will be using the Tarte Shape Tape. I will also be using the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte Foundation, just because this is the foundation that I have on my face now. And later on in the video, I'm going to show you guys why I'm going to be using this as well. And last but not least, for products, I'm going to be using the Ka-Brow by Benefit, and this is in the shade 4, which is just like a dark brown as well. So if you guys watched my videos from the beginning, y'all know that I typically do my brows after I do my foundation, and that's because whenever I did my foundation and I went in with a beauty sponge or a beauty blender, I liked going kind of crazy and not having to worry about, you know, messing up my brows. I didn't like being too careful with my foundation, so I would wait to do my brows at the end instead of doing them at the beginning. That way I wouldn't have to worry about it. Now I'm starting to do them at the beginning. My techniques to doing my brows have changed, so I don't do them the same as I used to before. And as I'm doing YouTube videos, each video I learn something different, and I learn a technique that, you know, betters my makeup. So but yeah, I'm gonna stop talking so much and let's get started. Alright guys, so these are my brows with absolutely no product on them. I do have foundation on my face, but that is about it. My eyebrows are clean. The first step to making sure you get those perfect brows is making sure that your eyebrows are clean on the bottom and on top. So what I'm doing here is I'm going ahead and tweezing my brows, making sure that I have no hairs growing out, or just plucking everything, making sure they're nice and clean and ready to go. And for this, I'll just be using some Revlon tweezers that you can find at your local Walgreens. Next, I'm going to be trimming my brows, and I really feel like tweezing and trimming are the 2 most important things to this, because this is what's going to make your brows look sharper and more defined. So to trim your brows, the first thing you're going to want to do is comb your hair straight up. That way you can see any hair that's obviously not going to want to stay in their lane, and you can trim it. Just make sure you don't trim it directly at the base of the hair, because if not, then you're going to over trim it. And you're going to want to use some scissors that look like this. I do suggest you guys use little scissors like this. Please don't try and use hair cutting shears or regular scissors, because then that will just be a mess. So once again, you're going to want to focus on the inner part of the brow and comb those hairs straight up. Don't worry about the second half. The second half we will worry about later, but for now, the inner part of the brow, just comb those hairs up. Now when trimming my left brow, since I am right-handed, I have to kind of switch my hand around to trim it. Please don't try and trim your brows with your left hand. And again, like I mentioned before, you don't want to cut directly at the base of the hair. Well, not the base, but more so like closer to the edge of your brow. Because trust me, when you do, like I have done in the past, you will end up with bald spots like I do have right here. I accidentally over trimmed, and that was not a good choice. And when you trim the outer part of your brows, you want to make sure you comb your brows out at an angle instead of directly down, and just trim any hairs that you see sticking out. Once again, don't make the same mistake that I did and don't cut so close to the edge of the brow line. Once you have done that, then what I do like to do is comb the outer part of the brow upward, also at an angle, not directly up, and just trim as far away from the brow line as I can, and just give those brow hairs a little bit of a trim, not so much, just to make sure that the outer part of the brow won't end up curling up on me later throughout the day. I had previously trimmed my brows like a few days back, so I was trying so hard to find at least one strand of hair that would stick out on the outer part of my brows, but I really couldn't find any. So here I'm just going back and making sure I got all those stubborn little hairs and making sure they're nice and ready to go so I can start filling them in. So the next step is filling in the brows, and I like using my Anastasia brow definer to fill in the inner part of my brow up to the arch, and then using my Benefit Ka-Brow to fill in the outer part of the brow. I'm going to start off by taking my Morphe S6 brush and dipping that into my Benefit Ka-Brow. Before I actually start filling my brows in, I'm just going to comb all of my brow hairs upward, and I'm going to gently dip my brush into the product. I'm going to start off by outlining the bottom of my brow, focusing the most amount of product towards the end of my brow and the least towards the arch. And when I do get closer to the end of my brow, I like doing sort of like flicking motions just to get that sharper effect towards the end. Also, when outlining the bottom of my brow, I do start outlining it a little bit before the brow, not exactly at the arch, but a little bit before. After I get done outlining the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and comb my brows back to the natural hair growth position and begin to outline the top of my brow. My hairs on my brows do grow a lot less towards the end of my brows on top, so I do have to over outline just a little bit. But after I do so, I'm just going to begin to fill in my brows. A really big tip is to also make sure you keep your spoolie around. That way you can comb out any harsh lines that you may have drawn whenever you fill in your brows. Also, don't worry about messing up the edges. That's what the concealer for, is at the end to just come back and clean up the edges of the brows and sharpen everything up. So don't be afraid to mess up because you can fix it at the end. All I'm doing here is going back in with my spoolie and combing my hairs up, and going back in with my brush and filling in any gaps that I may have missed when my brow hairs were combed downward. Once that is done, I will proceed to comb my hairs once again straight back down and fill any empty gaps that I may have missed on top. And once that is done, I'll just comb my brow hairs back to their normal hair growth position. So next I'm going to go ahead and go in with my brow definer, and I'm going to start off by combing my brows straight up like so. And the best way that I find to actually fill in your brows is to have a mirror underneath you and look down into it. Don't tilt your head down, but look down into the mirror and fill in the bottom of the brow towards the inner corner, and do it using small light strokes. Don't put too much pressure with the brow definer or else you'll get really harsh lines, but just do this part lightly and create sort of like a line. I did have a friend there more towards the beginning of my brow that was giving me a little bit of trouble, just because every time I try to fill my brows in that area, that pimple would get darker than the rest of the brow, so it was giving me a little bit of trouble. Here I'm just going back in and filling in any empty gaps that I may have missed with my Ka-Brow. Sometimes there's just spots. Well, for me, I have some spots that the product just doesn't want to stick to, so I go back in with my brow definer and I fill those in, since it's a much drier, less gel-like product. And always make sure you have your spoolie next to you. Your spoolie will be your best friend throughout the whole thing. And here's what the brows look like when you're done filling them in and when you have absolutely nothing in them. So once both brows are filled in, I'm just going to take a flat concealer brush. This one's by e.l.f. And I'm going to use that to carve out the bottom of my brows with some Tarte Shape Tape Concealer in the shade Medium. You can obviously use whatever shade that you have around or whatever concealer that you normally use. So to carve out the bottom of my brows, I'm not really doing anything special. We've all done this once or twice in our life. So I'm just really carving out the bottom, sharpening everything up, cleaning everything up, making sure it's nice and defined. And I'm just going to do the same thing with the other brow. I did this brow off camera. I just thought it was pretty pointless to do the exact same thing all over again. But I did do the exact same thing as the other brow. I used the same techniques. So yeah, I'm just defining this brow as well. After that, I'm going to lay my brush flat down to bring my concealer further down. I don't like that harsh concealer line. I know there's people who do, but I don't. I much more prefer the more natural looking brow. And after that, I'm just going to take my Sonia brush number 28. Make sure you take a more dense, not hard, but a little bit more sturdy brush just to blend that in. It makes it a lot easier. So for the part that I've been waiting for, I'm going to take my foundation. This is the foundation that I'm wearing right now, so you guys can take whatever foundation that y'all have on. And I'm just going to take this and use the foundation to carve out the top of my brow. The reason I'm doing this is because when I do my brows before my foundation, I already have foundation around my brows, so I don't have to worry about going so close to my brows and messing them up. So I'm going to use the foundation instead of concealer. Another major key whenever outlining the top of my brow, I like starting like 3/4 into the brow, not directly at the beginning of the brow, just because I don't like that super boxed brow at the beginning. I like it to look a little bit more natural, square but still natural. And I'm going to outline the top with my brush flat down, as if I were spreading my concealer out, but I'm doing this so my foundation on top can spread out and it can get as far away from my brow as possible. And once there is little to no product on my brush, I go in and just kind of blend out towards the front just so you won't be able to notice that I did start 3/4 into the brow. And then I'm going to take my angled brush and just clean up the brow if I did go too overboard, which I did with my foundation on top. So I'm just going in and really cleaning everything up and refilling any spots that I might have covered up with the foundation. Then taking that same Sonia brush that I used underneath my brow to blend and buff everything out, I'm going to use that same one to blend and buff the top. And as you can see, you can't even tell that I really defined the top of my brow. It does look a lot sharper, but you can't even notice that there was any product reapplied to the top of my brow. And then I am going to repeat the exact same thing that I did to my right brow onto my left brow. And the very last step, which is a big major key, is to add some highlight to your brow bone just to make it pop a little. You just can't leave without adding a little bit of highlight to your brow bone. That is a big part of doing my brows. And that is it, you guys. That completes my brows. I don't really tend to put any brow gel or anything on my brows. Trimming it does it for me. They really don't go out of place all the time. But obviously if your brow hairs don't know how to stay in their lane, then you can always apply any brow gel that you'd like. Hope you guys can really use some of the tips and advice that I gave y'all for this eyebrow tutorial, and I hope you guys can learn from this video. Another thing, don't get frustrated with your brows. Practice makes perfect. You will never get it on the first try, and even if you do, you will continue to better and better as you do your brows. I am still bettering mine. They don't always look great. I don't always have a great brow day, but this is how I normally do my brows. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Once again, I will have my Snapchat, Instagram, and Twitter all linked down below in the description bar, so y'all can follow me on that. That is it, you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all on the next one. Bye.